Happy Pride Month.
Hey, yes.
As listeners may know, not only is it Gemini season, not only it is Pride Month, it is also my birthday week. So, like, stars have aligned.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a confluence of the cosmic natures of things.
I am all powerful for a month. I wanted to bring it up, though, because we got a listener email from Orla.
Mm-hmm.
Its pronouns are it's.
Okay.
It asks, even though it's only a few days into Pride Month, I've always seen brands utilizing queerness to sell their goods, and it really annoys me. Would you be interested in talking about how we got to accepting queer people as a society because we can use them to sell things?
That's, I mean, they're down to like Raytheon has like a rainbow pattern in theirs, like the more female drone pilots or whatever, you know, that whole... Mm-hmm. It's messed up, man. Even the defense industry.
Yeah, I mean, it really nailed it on the head right there. It is literally just the commodification of a people realizing, oh, a lot of these people, not all of them by any means, but a lot of them are affluent and they will spend their dollars. So,
yes.
There we go.
Yeah, and I think that ties into the inclusion of more and more people, the kind of breaking down of racial barriers, for example, and things like that, or advancing gender equality to a degree, as capitalism kind of realizes, oh, we have a market here that we could take advantage of.
Yeah.
Let's bring these people into the fold of what only the straight white people are partaking in right now.
Yeah, it's interesting to me to see what the limits of those acceptance criteria are. Mm-hmm. It's extremely easy to accept gay marriage now because it's like, well, you're just like the rest of us. You get married and you buy things, and that's cool. Yeah.
Other than that, you're basically you are a family, a nuclear family in the same way. You just have different basic components of it.
Yeah, and even the racial component or the trans community, there are limits to how much they accept it. As soon as you get into providing trans people health care, that ain't gonna fly. Or you know, taking a look at how we exploit people in other countries, that's not gonna fly.
Yeah, or reparations, or giving back land that was stolen.
Yeah, as soon as there's a material cost, they're like, no, we'll put a flag up because that's fucking easy.
Right, we wanted to put you in our ads so we could sell things.
Yeah, that's it. They're not gonna do anything. They're just gonna say they support you, which is insane.
Yes, for sure.
I mean, yeah, it's better than getting called slurs or whatever, obviously.
Sure.
But it's not a real material impact.
Just as pretty much everything that capitalism does, it seems that, and we're talking in these big terms, but corporation firms, right? Individual firms making these decisions, just about everything that they do is not, that sounds sort of progressive. Mm-hmm. Is the bare fucking minimum that they could do. You know, it's
really is.
This, we tested, this is as far out as we have to go to get credit for being good, get a little bit of market share or whatever, and that's it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Yeah, it's just fucked up, man. I don't know. Everyone was so excited telling me about the Dallas skyline being all gay and shit. I'm like, I mean, it's cool, but let me see those financial records and see who they donated to. You know, I bet I won't like that.
Yeah. Well, you might at the local level, maybe. It's a democratic city, but you probably won't at the statewide level, at least.
No, I will not. Well, that was a cheerful start, but do you want to get to our real topic today?
Is anyone still tuning in for cheerful content here?
I mean, we've had complaints I make too many jokes, so...
Oh, yeah. We're just bringing it down to a nice, sobering talk. Here we are on NPR discussing...
Yes, let me get my glasses.
Whatever.
Oof. Get my librarian look going. No humor.
I might mark off points for that because in this episode, you're going to be doing a report. You're going to be teaching me, basically. Let's not call it a report, honestly. We're switching roles.
Yes.
You're teaching me.
No, every time someone complains that I'm loud or make too many jokes, I'm just going to get louder and make more jokes. So review at your own caution. I just get more powerful.
But then someone who was actually of the contrary opinion, right? They thought you could actually increase your volume. You could actually like make more jokes. They're going to now go on a review and say,
oh no,
too cool, too loud, too many jokes, just so you'll do it.
No, don't neg me if you don't actually dislike me. Please don't. I'm very sensitive. Okay. Today, we're going to be talking about the Federal Art Project.
All right.
Yeah.
I think I like this.
I think you will. Definition of it, basically. So Federal Art Project was underneath the Works Projects Administration or Works Progress Administration. They apparently changed their name.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's before everything was like actually an acronym that was a word, as far as laws go. But you're talking about the New Deal era.
Yes. I think they just did it because they're like, well, we already have our stationery and everything is like stamped with WPA. I'm not going to change it.
Yeah. Oh, so they renamed it apparently in 1939.
Yeah. Did it go from Progress to Projects?
Yes.
Yeah.
Progress to Projects.
Yeah.
I think that may have sounded more concrete to Republicans or something. This is shovel-ready stuff,
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about that and specifically how it relates to the left and the labor movement. And, yeah.
Cool.
Let's get into it. I always like to start art historical things by going like a little bit further back so we get some context.
All right.
So let's talk about art from the 1920s.
Can I tell you what I know?
What do you know?
Or what I think I know?
What do you think you know?
To me, when I think of art in the 20s, I think of like obviously jazz is the jazz age. And I think of like the highly stylized like pictures of like flappers and people in very fancy tuxedos and monocles and stuff.
What are they? The Arrow shirt guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, those hotties.
So that's what I think of in the 20s.
The guy who's like super famous was for that, J.C. Leyendecker, I think, was like hella gay and just like got to draw hot guys for a living. So like living the dream.
Damn, yeah, that's do what you love, and you'll still be exploited by capitalism, but at least it won't be so bad.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna be shirt number 3. In like a really cheesy, like mom Hobby Lobby sign font.
Yes. Yeah, live, laugh, love.
Ugh, I gotta get on these shirts, guys. But you're right. So commercial side, it's very pleasant. I would also throw in like maybe Norman Rockwell. That's kind of when he got his start. So very like just commercialism, buy this shit. Look how good America is.
Right.
There's that famous photo where there's like this really idyllic billboard, like America, the land of opportunity. And then there's a bread line in front of it. Have you seen that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we're working with here. Just like
the happy images. Yeah. Everything's good.
The other side of that, so more of like the quote unquote fine art side of that, you have what was called surrealism. What do you know about that?
To me, that is Salvador Dali.
Exactly.
And weird kind of, it's surreal. I don't know. That's
perfect.
Not a great description, but.
No, I mean, I was basically going to say the same thing. Like he is the quintessential artist at that period. There's many more, but he's a very easy reference because he painted the weird melting clock picture, if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Very mysterious and cerebral and like trying to be like otherworldly or whatever.
Okay.
So those are like the two art styles you have kind of going in. There's obviously more than that. We're simplifying.
Okay.
So when the economy crashes, we all are like, I don't think we have time for like fun, surrealist dream exploration anymore. We're all dying. So there's a real rejection of those, like kind of what's seen as like European ideas of surrealism and that kind of art, and a big turn towards realism. And that kind of goes in two different stripes as well.
All right.
So first you have what's called regionalism. This is another made-up art term. Literally, Time Magazine did an interview with one guy and was like, he's a regionalist, like just made up the term.
Okay. Made it easier to explain, basically, to their readers.
Yeah. So Grant Wood would be a famous one of these. American Gothic. The guy with the pitchfork and the lady.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The farmer picture.
Yes, farmer picture. It's what it should have been called. So that's like a very classic example. You also have artists like Thomas Hart Benton, John Stewart Curry, Marston Hartley, but they were all really focused on depicting the American heartland, or just like quote unquote the real America, whatever that means.
So like Americana
Very Americana.
is how we would kind of call it, right? Like the American, not the American dream, but yeah, classic America.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily idealized. Grant Wood in particular was like a little bit satirical. So the other side of that, you have what's called social realism.
Ooh, okay.
So this has actually, yeah, it has kind of a longer history than this regionalism stuff. It actually kind of originated in Europe in, I don't know the dates. Courbet is a very famous one, but they are all about depicting social issues such as like poverty and immigration through art. And it's all about showing like the tension between like the powerful and the oppressed, and just like really showing poor people like in a sympathetic lens for the most part.
All right, I dig that. This is different than socialist realism.
You guessed my next bullet point.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that was Stalin's thing.
Okay.
That is super idealized and realistic and just, you know, basically propaganda. Like, here's a
It's
hot
like
guy.
socialism. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a hot guy with a torch. Do socialism.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Not a bad selling point, but you know. So socialist realism, that sometimes shows up in social realism. Like sometimes they'll be a little bit idealized. Like there's a lot of, we'll see later, there's a lot of like very masculine figures doing like tough work, like mining and shit.
Okay. Yeah. That's part of my impression of the WPA art from Want to Know in History.
Yeah, there's definitely like some of that flavor in there, but it's that's not like all it is.
It's a different thing. Yeah. And you're saying social realism is highlight the social problems in society. More like question. Does it? It's not so much like here's what we should do.
Yeah, it's more like showing the inequality, I would say.
Awareness. Like, okay.
New Deal time.
Heck yeah, sort of. Like I used to be, I'll insert myself here a little bit. I used to be way more like, hell yeah, dude, we just need to like do the New Deal again. Like, you know, right? Just fucking give people jobs, you know, have the government solve problems. But I mean, from a more left perspective, the New Deal is more like kind of, again, doing the bare minimum
Yes.
to prop everything up again. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's still good in its way. Like it's an improvement, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd be fucking psyched if it happened again. But yeah, we should also be doing more. Like, yes, and.
Yeah, good point.
What was I going to say? You want to give us a little 8th grade, you know, textbook definition of New Deal? You don't have to make it 8th grade in, like, you know, a Texas textbook, maybe. Don't do that.
So the New Deal, this is kind of the flagship program of Franklin Delano Roosevelt's administration. His recovery plan for getting America out of the Great Depression. It was kind of a bunch of things, you know, financial reform, like this program here, Public Works, not just in art, but in infrastructure, really pumping up the government in terms of making it an energetic, actually taking a role in the economy. Before this, it's strange for us to imagine now, but before this, the government was super small, tiny in terms of its agency's power and everything. So this really transformed thing. You're talking between 1933 to 1939. And there's actually two phases, like the first New Deal and the second New Deal. The first New Deal happening from 1933, 1934, kind of the initial get up and go. And then the second New Deal from 1935 to 1936.
Yes.
We have kind of a little longer lasting stuff like Social Security, Labor Relations Board, that sort of thing.
Cool. In my research, I thought it was really interesting because I watched like a newsreel from the time.
Yeah.
And the language they use is so weird. They're like, people want to work and like give them the dignity of hard work. And it was just so Puritan.
That was a huge part of why you had like work, why you had to come up with like projects to do to make sure that people like got, you know, like what I have to say, shovel ready projects is got some tools and like went to do a thing or whatever, because like the government was very scared of just giving people money.
Yeah.
They thought that would be bad for their morale. They obviously probably also thought that would be bad for their profits later on, you know.
Yeah. So part of the New Deal was the Works Progress / Projects Administration, right? Mm-hmm. So this was really just trying to create employment, like you said, you know, big, huge projects like infrastructure. The Tennessee Valley Authority is part of that, like just a huge ass project.
Yeah, yeah. And that one actually is still around.
Wait, the WPA is?
No, the Tennessee Valley
Oh,
Authority.
yeah, it is. Part of this was something called Federal Project Number 1, which is a cool name.
Yeah, that's sounds like we're going to space.
Exactly. It sounds like some spy shit, and I'm into it. But actually, this was basically the arts section.
Okay, that's interesting that it's first.
I know. Number 1 priority. I'm into it. They spent around $27 million and employed up to 40,000 artists in various fields. And this was actually divided into 5 like sub projects, which I kind of wanted to go through quickly because they're really interesting.
Okay, yeah.
So first we have the Federal Writers Project.
Okay.
Some famous beneficiaries from this were John Steinbeck and Zora Neale Hurston.
Okay.
And I was reading about it. There's this like Jacobin article about it. Apparently the project had kind of some hiccups because what they would do, they had all these writers out of work, and it was everything from like big name writers to people who would like write instruction manuals and like ad copy and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. So different skill levels or something? Not skill, I don't know. Well known.
Yeah, I have some of that too, though. Like, it was very hard to find work that was appropriate for people because, like, your little writers maybe weren't as used to some of these projects, and then the big ones had such big egos. It was like, oh my God, will you just fucking write the copy? Like,
Yeah.
so they would set them on things like write a like state guide for this state, you know, like write the fucking Mississippi tour guide or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a really interesting project. Another one was the Historical Records Survey. Part of this was actually the interviewing of former slaves in the South. So like that's a huge historical resource.
Oh, yeah. Oral history.
There were also archaeological studies. So studying like pre-Columbian indigenous cultures, you know, doing digs and preservation and stuff like that.
Cool.
And this last bit was technically under a few different programs, like there was an agricultural program, something like that. But they had a photography division, and they would go out and basically document the Great Depression and like the Great Migration of farmers. A lot of the very famous photos from that time were taken by these people, like Dorothea Lange, you know, the very famous migrant photo mother.
The woman, right? Yeah, okay, that's what I was actually going to ask. Is that from there?
That's totally her.
All right.
Next, we have the Federal Theater Project.
Okay.
So this included 225,000 performances and then some.
Did they send people out, or were they like funding, you know, local community theater style things?
I believe it was both.
Okay.
A lot of touring, though, from what I understand.
Cool.
Some of the notable productions that I thought were interesting, there was an all-black production of Macbeth, and it was like set in Haiti.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And this play called The Revolt of the Beavers. I'm going to send you a link to
All right.
the poster for it. Hold on. This is not in our slideshow, but you could just Google Revolt of the Beavers poster. It's quite a treat for the eyes.
Fucking dope. Meet the chief.
Meet the chief. So this is a fucking labor metaphor in a children's play.
Oh, nice. Like the chief, I guess, is an asshole to the rest of the beavers.
Yeah, the chief forces everyone to work and hoards all the goods, and one of the beavers, named like Oak Leaf or something, this is some fucking Redwall shit, leads a dang socialist revolution where they all share.
Oh, heck yeah. That's awesome.
Critics called it Marxism a la Mother Goose. They're not wrong, but it sounds amazing.
But it's cool, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
That's what we were going for, was the response.
Thank you. Next, we have the Federal Music Project, concerts going on tour, and all of these programs had some kind of, I would say, ideals that they stuck to, one of which was really bringing arts to everybody. So making it more accessible. So like some of these people had never seen live theater before or a concert before, like these more rural areas. So there was a lot of touring going on. And they also really proposed, were like a strong proponent of learning by doing. So a lot of these included an educational component.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's like participatory. It's like education, but like, I don't know. It's just interesting that we once tried. Can you imagine? I don't know. Can you imagine a modern day?
No.
How fast that would get shot down or like not even proposed in the first place?
No. And that was something that was really interesting in this research. There was this whole swath of articles that came out like around a few months into the pandemic where everyone was like, we need to do this again. And it was just really interesting to hear them like, there's a craving for it, but it's like the environment is so different. Like that just shit wouldn't get off the ground.
Yeah, that would be laughed out of the halls of Congress. Like
it absolutely would. Yeah. This brings us to the last of these 5 programs, the Federal Art Project.
All right.
First off, terrible logo. Do you like it?
I mean, it's got, it's got some parts. It's got the little easel.
No, that's a palette.
That's what I mean, a palette. I knew what it was, but I said the wrong thing because I'm dumb. Yeah, the palette. That's not great. It looks like I don't know. It doesn't look good.
It gives me Nazi vibes, but I think that's just the fact that it's from the 40s and it's an eagle.
Everything has those eagle clean line sort of things.
Yeah.
I think the NRA has like a straight up like spread wing eagle thing. The National Recovery Administration.
Yeah, they came up in my research, and when I heard that acronym, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Different NRA, guys.
Yes. But okay, yeah, not the best logo.
Weird logo. Terrible acronym, I'll tell you that. I kept typing that out and had to backspace.
What? I mean, they're just helping the country with FAP.
That's how you get a nation back on their feet. Morale. That's how you boost morale.
Yep, boost something.
Anyway, this covered both public art and what you would consider more traditionally fine art.
Okay.
All in all, they employed around 10,000 artists and created over 200,000 individual works of art.
Interesting. I got a question, I guess, that I'll interject. So when you have done kind of the research on this, is 10,000? That sounds very small. My point here is, do you think that the programs overall do you think that 10,000 was very, small economically too? Or do you think that maybe it had like a wider effect in terms of like people getting to see this art and stuff?
I think it has a wider effect because just the art production was just part of the project. Mm-hmm. They also did instruction and research. So it was like a much wider effect. And also like, so we can talk about the program now. In the easel program, so like if you're like a painter or whatever,
yeah,
you get paid $25 a week to bring in 1 painting a month. And that's like a really good rate for the time.
Working at the art factory, basically.
Yeah. You had to produce consistently or you'd get kicked out. Like if you were late lots of times, they'd be like, no, sorry.
No, yeah, okay.
You couldn't produce nudes or quote unquote explicitly political art. Obviously,
Ooh.
We're going to see people towed that line, made that line blurry, really fucked around with that.
Good.
We're going to be focusing more on like the left side of that, clearly. Let me be clear. There was a lot of not political art in here too, but I found more leftist art than I was expecting.
Awesome. All right, cool.
But yeah, to answer your question though, I think, yeah, maybe the numbers themselves seem small, but for me, the fact that artists were even in the mix is really important.
Yeah, okay.
And that kind of gets to what I want to talk about, like how this was created. Mm-hmm. So if you just like Google this, the very common narrative you'll find is that George Biddle, a painter who like went to Harvard with FDR, wrote him a letter and was like, hey, Mexico's doing all these murals. We should do that. We should have a public arts program. Let's do it. Blah, blah, blah.
Right. Kind of a hey old chum sort of thing.
Yes. And it's shown as this very like paternalistic, like, let's hand you poor artists a job.
Mm-hmm. Yes, let's do something for the struggling bums.
Yes. When in reality, there was like a mass movement behind this. There's a lot of agitation for this.
I like that.
You had the Communist Party USA, you had the Artists Union, they formed something called the Unemployed Artist Group, and something called John Reed Clubs were basically just like little communist clubs all around. So
John Reed Clubs. Those
Yeah.
are named after John or Jack Reed, as he was known at the time, like a socialist, kind of communist journalist / activist.
okay.
He famously went to Russia and documented the October Revolution
Whoa. Okay.
firsthand. He was like there and wrote this book called 10 Days That Shook the World.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't look into who that was. But yeah, there was a mass like agitation for this. It wasn't just like, oh, please, like, give us this. It was like, fucking give us this.
Yeah, awesome.
And they also had to continue to fight as like immediately the program started facing cuts. Like you just immediately had Republicans tearing their fucking clothes off, being like, this is ridiculous.
All these not hippies, but
Yeah.
bohemian types. We shouldn't be financing them. Yeah.
Yes.
Same thing as they would do to prevent it from happening today.
Absolutely, yes. I just think that's really interesting. That's classic America, the great man story of like this one guy came up with an idea, so we did it. Like,
Yeah, he came up with the right idea, West Wing style. And everyone bought in because it was correct.
yes. But it's like, no, people are fucking pissed.
Yeah, instead they were forced to by the masses.
Yeah. And like, that's
know?
honestly how I think we've talked about this before. The rest of the New Deal was also very much that too. Like you had, what are they called? Hoovervilles, like just slum cities. And
Yeah.
people would fucking mobilize.
You had a small but growing communist party. You had, the Socialist Party. Obviously, you had this like budding left current that people were also taking to the streets, and we're not just talking about like the liberal bastions now because that wasn't a thing back then. Like we're talking the middle of the country. You were
Yeah.
like worried about an agrarian revolution in Kansas.
Yeah, because you had these huge swaths of people abandoning farms, flocking to the cities, and being like, I need a fucking job.
Right, yeah. Like you said, we've talked about it before, but putting pressure, popular pressure, mass pressure on the government to not please pass this legislation, but we're going to do something for ourselves. We'll leave the ball is in your court if you want to try to save the system you've got because we're going to do something else otherwise.
Yes. Another thing this program did was establish community art centers in like underserved neighborhoods as well. So they established the Harlem Community Art Center, which was like a really big deal for the Harlem Renaissance. A lot of famous people from that movement were either teaching there or trained there, stuff like that.
Cool.
They also offered tons of art classes for both adults and kids. Just like there's all these posters like come learn lithography or like photography or like all these like really wide variety of disciplines.
Right, because that would be another way to employ an artist is teaching someone. That's cool.
And this is also why we have art taught in public schools today, although that is increasingly vanishing. It started with this.
Are they really just, I haven't seen that in my district, my area, but is that like a nationwide thing now?
I don't know if they're just like straight up cutting it, but like it's just, there's not a lot of funding for it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into some of the specific projects and pieces. So this is our first piece in the slideshow. If you're following us on social media, we will post these. We'll be looking at 10 images today. And like I said, we're going to be focusing on the left side of things. So like, yeah, there was a lot of just like, I painted a park and it's cool. So
Hey
yeah.
guys, check out my park.
Check it out. The first project we'll be looking at is the poster division. This is probably one of the more famous
Series.
yes, of posters and art items produced by this project. We've got the Yellowstone National Park poster right here. What do you think?
I love it. I guess this is Old Faithful, maybe.
I
Is
think
that
so.
in Yellowstone?
I
All
don't
right.
know. I'm not a
Nature
nature
kids
person.
over here.
Nature check.
I love this series of posters. I actually use it with my students and get them to like do a style like this style of poster, like a poster advertisement sort of thing, like go do the thing, but for different historical. I kind of use that a few times in the year, like, hey, we're going to do this on
fun.
whatever subject,
That's cool.
And I get to show them cool New Deal art. So
Hell yeah. So yeah, the poster division is probably one of the more famous areas in this program. They did over 35,000 poster designs.
Oh, wow.
And created around 2 million silkscreen posters. The crazy thing about that is most of them are lost. Like, they're very hard to find.
Huh. Yeah, I was going to say, I definitely haven't seen that much variety in them. I've seen, several, but...
Well, what's interesting is because there are posters, people just like throw them away, paint over them, post over them, whatever. Like, they weren't treated with care, obviously.
It was mass produced.
Yeah, and even this national park series, if you look up some of them, they'll have these like boxes in the layout, and that was so the individual campsites could post like, here's our activities this week.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They did it for utility and also so people wouldn't steal them.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like a big project trying to find and also restore all these posters. Like this one guy, I watched some videos of him. His whole job is like trying to track down these posters and then work with artists to like recreate the color because like we only have like photo negatives. So it's just really interesting.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Question about just, I guess, technology in the times. Like, were these all like produced one by one? You couldn't just Xerox this shit, right?
Yeah, so this is a silk screen printing method, which I don't know a ton about. You basically have screens and you like, I think you just put ink on it, and I don't know, guys. I was not a printmaker major. But yeah, it was a faster process than other things. But yeah, it wasn't just like super easy. You had to have someone who knew what they were doing.
Right, okay, so a skilled reproduction of it, I guess.
I would say yes.
Cool.
These posters covered everything from education, arts, public health, travel, the national parks, and we're basically just like propaganda, which is fine. Most things are.
Well, like public service announcements, right? I've seen some of them. They're like, there was this really good one. It was like an eye chart or something, and it's like, Johnny might not be dull. He just might need his eyes checked, like get an eye exam, For
sure. Yeah, there's stuff like, hey, here's stuff about STDs you might not know.
Yeah.
They also covered things like the theater projects we were talking about. That was a huge component, is making posters to show that stuff, or like the art classes to advertise those. So it kind of all supported itself.
This is like what graphic design and everything. That's what you guys will be doing in the commune,
That's great, because if I could tell you how many times I've heard a pitch for, let's do this, but in the style of WPA posters.
Oh.
It's a good idea for a reason. These are beautiful, and like it has roots kind of in that like Russian constructivism and Bauhaus design, where it's like very legible, very easy to understand.
Yeah.
So
it's
like,
just overdone.
Yeah, it's a little overdone, but it's fine.
Like too easy of an idea.
But it'd be cool to have those projects, but like do it in a completely different style. Like that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be down for that job for sure. They also worked with something called the Civilian Conservation Corps. Do you know about that?
So yeah, the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, these guys it was a relief program, a works relief program from the mid 1933, kind of the start of the New Deal. I think this ran through in the beginning of World War II even, and it was for young men.
Yeah.
So they would kind of send teams of these guys to go like, you said build national parks, but like things, for people to do in national parks. Like, cabins for people, or like visitor centers, all the things that kind of, make a national park kind of usable for modern people, I guess.
Yeah.
Or like, cut trails and set up like guideposts and things along the way. It was a like a constructive, build things summer camp sort of thing for these young men. It wasn't just like boys.
Just teens.
Like teens. No, it was like 17 to 28.
Okay.
Was the age range. So
cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of people. Maximum enrollment at any one time was 300,000.
Damn.
And overall, about 3 million young men participated in it.
Damn. So that's the poster division. I think a pretty straightforward example of what this program could be. Like, this is definitely on the more utility side.
Yeah.
All right. The next image we're going to look at. What do you think this guy is?
Ooh. Looks like a quilt.
Yeah. What would you say the medium of this art piece is?
The medium, I don't know. thread, but like cotton. I don't know.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you. So this is a photograph of a quilt.
Uh-huh.
It's not a photograph of a quilt. That's a fucking watercolor drawing.
Holy shit, right? What?
So
Someone drew this?
someone fucking drew that.
That's cool. I thought that was, I was just straight up looking at a quilt that someone had quilted or,
Yeah.
created.
So this is part of the Index of American Design. This project is crazy to me for many reasons.
Whoa.
So you can find a category like listing of all the objects covered in this. Mm-hmm. You can go to nga.gov and then just kind of search around for it. I found it in my Googles, so you can get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool because you can see all the different types of objects they painted. But basically, this project was trying to record like folk and decorative arts from early colonial times to 1900.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, and to do this, they made 18,000 watercolor drawings.
Wow.
You might be like, why the fuck would you do that? Why don't you just take a goddamn picture and move on? Mm-hmm. This was the 1930s. Photography was not that good yet. They could not get color, for instance.
So this would be one of the few ways to kind of record that.
Yeah, and they felt that watercolor could better capture like the texture and like there's a lot of textile work covered in this. Mm-hmm. Like the one we're looking at here. And it's so cool though. Like I spent a long time in this gallery just looking because they covered everything from like children's toys to like women's hats and costumes to furniture design. It was so cool.
I'm sure that for a lot of that, that's the only record we have of what that stuff looked like, you know?
Absolutely. Like, do you want to see a child's Noah's Ark playset from the fucking 1800s? Absolutely, I do.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And you're exactly right that that kind of stuff is often the stuff that does not get preserved. Mm-hmm. Folk art and decorative arts are often seen as lesser art or just less likely to be, I don't know, revered in that way.
It's just drivel from the commoners, you know?
Mm-hmm, yeah, and honestly, a lot of it is domestic work, which means women's work, so we're going to devalue it, you know, it's just the way it is.
It's frivolous.
Yeah, right? Just pretty sewing. Like, Jesus, if I could sew like this, that's insane.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. So this was intended to serve, a few purposes. One was preserving that kind of art, almost like an archaeological project, just really documenting it.
Yeah.
And then it was also to kind of create a reference material, basically just so you have this historical, like more long-term view of American design, because I think America always has a complex of like, Europe has all this history and stuff and we don't. And so,
yeah.
So this was really trying to maybe influence modern design by saying like, here's all this like visual history we have.
Here are like your artistic roots, like in America.
Yeah.
It reminds me of our kind of conversation about what kind of historical roots can American leftists like draw on and stuff. It's like important to know that you have had this popular history that, the official view kind of tries to gloss over.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's a very good comparison. Also, it employed a fuck ton of people. So, like, yeah, if you're making 18,000 highly detailed watercolor drawings, like, yeah.
You're busy.
Yeah, you got work. Highly recommend checking out that archive. It's really fucking cool.
Yeah, I will be. That was, you got me there. I thought that was a photo for sure.
Yeah, right? Okay. Moving on into some more decorative arts is our next piece by Florence Kawa. And this is called... it's a wall hanging. I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I found. What do you think about this piece?
I like it. You got both men and women working in the factories.
Hell yeah.
Side by side. Doesn't look like it's, the men are lifting the heavy things. The women are, making sure they're fed. It's like...
They're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Which appears to be rubbing gears just with their
I don't
hands.
know if what they're precisely doing, but
I don't know what their safety standards.
They're doing labor.
This is a block print on fabric, and this actually was gifted to Eleanor Roosevelt, who was a big proponent of the WPA.
Yeah.
To me, this really shows the emphasis on like an American folk art style. Like the figures are very stylized. The use of textile is very common for folk art. And really the depiction of the workers is showing like, hey, yeah, like you said, like everyone's participating. We're all working towards a common goal. And also kind of sanitizing a bit, which we'll see later. Like there's no, sweat or dirt or anything. Like it's not a gross factory. It's this nice, clean imagery.
Yeah, it's a good place to go work. It's, and it's positive. You can see it's on the top and the bottom borders, the kind of the industrial scene there, that it's all, you're a part of that, or like you're almost the beating heart of it sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I like that because they're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Which can kind of get to like cognitive machine shit, but like in a good way. Like that's what a lot of this art kind of talks about. It's interesting.
Do your part, sort of a collectivist in that way, but good, I guess. And it's a little bit illusory because, I mean, honestly, you're convincing people to do this, but as if there's like some sort of social ownership happening and stuff, but it's still actually capitalism.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't know, I do think it's interesting, this glorification of work, because like on one level it's cool, like, yeah, we should respect labor, but the second half of that is you should respect labor, but like properly compensating people and not exploiting them. And like a lot of this like only addresses the first half, like the pride conversation.
Kind of, yeah. It says like, it's right. You should respect work or the laborer even. That's as far as it goes. It doesn't say like, and that means they should be in control. Like,
yeah, it doesn't get to that part.
Right. But I mean, it's not on them. I just mean for the broader project. Like, it's not on the artist here.
No,
this,
I don't
this
think
is
so.
dope.
Yeah.
But like the larger project is not trying to ask that question.
Not really.
But it's still cool.
Yeah. So let's get to that good, straight communist juice.
Yes, please.
All right. Image number 4. We've got my man, problematic fave, Diego Rivera.
What is he? Do you want to cover why he's problematic?
Yeah, we'll get into some other reasons, but for me, he's problematic because my main girl is Frida, and they had a very messy relationship. So
Okay. All right.
I'm always going to be on Frida's side. I mean, they both cheated, but whatever.
Okay. Personal reasons.
Yes. But other reasons too, which we'll get into.
Okay.
So what we're looking at here is the Detroit Industry mural. This is the north wall. There are 3 other walls.
Okay.
This was done in 1932. This is a fresco piece. So he took this contract from the Detroit Institute of Art's Garden Court, and this was sponsored by Edsel Ford, son of Henry Ford.
So like, with like Ford money, actual, All right.
That's why he's kind of a problematic fave too.
Yeah. We talked about in our last episode Ford's support of the nationalists in Spain, and just in general, like, I mean, Ford, it's a titan of industry, and Henry Ford in particular, real asshole.
Oh yeah, piece of shit.
But I mean, you got to work,
They gotta take some work, and so Ford apparently needed to kind of fix their publicity because some workers went on a hunger strike to improve working conditions. So they're like, well, we'll sponsor this cool mural for the community.
Oh, what?
Totally normal
Classic.
response.
Yeah. Classic deflection move.
Right.
But this is a cool mural.
It's cool as fuck, right? Mm-hmm. Diego was openly communist, was in the Communist Party in Mexico, eventually got kicked out because he was like BFFs with Trotsky. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would be a problem for mainline communists at the time.
Yeah, he gets his contract from Ford. He gets to tour the factory and is like really fascinated by the technology. And you can kind of see in this mural, he's really exploring the relationship between man and machine, just like that earlier piece.
Yeah, so a little bit of that cog in the machine, sort of, without the negative connotations maybe, but like harmony between them.
So a little bit of negative connotations, actually. So in other areas of the mural, I don't think it's in this particular panel, but you can look up the other panels as well. He will simultaneously, on like one side of the wall, he'll show scientists working on a vaccine. And then on the other side, he'll show scientists working on a gas bomb.
Oh.
So showing really the positives and negatives of this new technological society we're in.
Yeah.
He did the same thing with aviation, like, oh, cool, flying. Also warplanes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so really exploring that relationship and like, is this a good thing? I don't know.
Yeah. It's not inherent, right? It's not inherently a good or bad thing. The system, whether whether it's popularly controlled or not, that kind of depends. That's what decides if you're going to make stuff to kill other rival capitalists or if you're going to make stuff for the benefit of humanity.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, which path are you taking? Another reason he was a problematic fave, apparently his workers were pushed really hard. They worked like insane hours on this. At one point, they protested for higher pay. I don't remember if it was this mural or another one, but at one point, one of his workers was like, hey, I'm going to go to the fucking papers and tell them you're not paying your workers well enough, and you're definitely going to lose some communist points for that, so, like, pay me.
Smart.
Very
so he
smart
was
move.
a bad boss?
He was a bad boss.
Oh, what an asshole.
I know. It's so annoying. In one of the panels, again, it's not this one. I really liked this one, though, so that's why I picked it. But you can just find the rest of them. Actually, the Google Arts, they have like a thing where you can kind of move around the mural. It's really cool. You can kind of scroll through the main panels, so you can just find it there. There's one panel that basically shows like a quasi nativity scene. And so you have like a little blonde baby with like his parents and like some animals at the bottom. And then you also have someone giving the baby a vaccine.
Okay.
And the church was like, this is blasphemy. Apparently they're very anti-vax.
What?
I don't think it was because it was they were anti-vax. I think it's just like, you can't show
The
Jesus.
nativity scene.
Yeah, you can't do a nativity scene and
Don't
also
do that,
science.
please. Yeah.
Rivera's kind of hilarious, just like as a character. He painted this mural commissioned by the Rockefeller Center. So those Rockefellers.
Okay.
It was called Man at the Crossroads. And in it, he included a portrait of Lenin.
Oh, hell yeah. I think I've seen this one before.
Yes, we have seen it because, spoiler for the rest of the story, it is now in Mexico City.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
It's downtown.
So how is it in Mexico City then if the
Yeah.
Rockefellers wanted it?
So they demanded he remove Lenin or he would lose the commission and they would destroy it. And he was just like, nah, fuck you. So they destroyed the mural and he actually lost a commission for the upcoming Chicago World's Fair, which was kind of good because apparently he released a public statement saying, well, if they had hired me, I would just repaint that same mural over and over until I run out of money.
Petty.
Such a petty bitch. I love it. And he did end up repainting it in Mexico City.
Dude, yeah, I remember this. This is
It's a cool ass mural.
a great one.
So yeah, he's a fucking funny guy. I'll give him points for that.
He's good at trolling the capitalists.
Definitely. Like, pay me and then I'll paint whatever I want and then just leave if I don't like it.
Yeah, but unfortunately he absorbed a little bit of their, boss tendencies.
Next, we have an image from the Coit Tower. This panel is from the library panel.
All right.
This particular section was by Bernard Zakim in 1933, but this was a very big project, so tons of artists worked on it. Both students and faculty from the California School of Fine Arts were like heavily involved.
All right, yeah, and the Coit Tower, that is in San Francisco.
Yes, it is. All right, I want you to look at the guy in green, in that green jumpsuit. Pretty good look.
The guy that's posing?
Yeah, well, take a look at what he's reaching for.
He's reaching for a red book that looks like it might say Karl Marx.
It absolutely does say Karl Marx.
Oh, hell yeah. He's in for a good read.
Right? He's going to have a good time. That is Das Kapital.
Oh, well, I don't know if he's in for a good read. I haven't read that, but
Yeah, that one looks hard.
it's just it's got volumes and it's lengthy.
No, I don't have time for that. And also, one of the newspapers the guy is reading, top and like middle blonde guy. He has a weird pinched up face.
Yeah, he's like turned sideways, like, oh, I can't believe what I'm reading.
Yeah, so he is reading the headline about the destruction of Rivera's Man at the Crossroads mural.
Oh, that's why he's so pissed.
Yeah, he's like, what the fuck? In fact, a lot of the artists working on Coit Tower picketed when that mural was destroyed.
Oh, Cool. Solidarity.
Exactly. Some other kind of communist nods in these panels, in various panels. Mm-hmm. In one of them, there's a newsstand scene, and they include radical newspapers at the time, like the New Masses and the Daily Worker.
Cool. Yeah, yeah.
At one point, they show a labor march. There are these 3 panels. I could not find them, which I will explain why in a second. There were these 3 frescoes. They're kind of smaller, and one of them symbolized capitalism and had, like, I can't remember what exactly they had on it, but something to give that effect. One symbolizing the New Deal, and one straight up symbolizing communism, including a hammer and sickle and the quote, "Workers of the world unite."
Oh, damn. So they, destroyed that, or?
Yeah, that did not get through.
Oh, so he, like, designed it, but they were like, no, you can't put this on.
Yeah, they had painted it. So they painted that, and then another one was, there was a banner above this, like, crowd of unemployed men, and it was for the Western Worker, which was another, like, radical periodical. Mm-hmm. So the public freaked out, and the official opening was canceled.
Oh, goodness.
And the press wrote, like, really, they also kind of exaggerated, like, communism in the tower, and, like, they were making it seem like it was a very prominent feature when it was, like, pretty small.
Yeah.
So, yeah, eventually they negotiated to get the hammer and sickle and then that red banner removed. But, like, they still have fucking Karl Marx's book in there. So, like, I don't know if they just didn't catch that or what.
Maybe. It's like how they said, you used to get by the Hollywood Code or the comics code by including something ridiculous. And then everything else, could go through.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And even, like, in the library scene, I think it's in this one, some of the books, they would just write their own names as authors. Like, they just did some trolling, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Who is this guy again? This is cool.
Bernard Zakim is the guy we're looking at here, this particular panel, but there's a big list of people who worked on it. It was like 10 people or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A collab.
It was.
Awesome.
That's the thing about mural work, which is why Rivera had so many assistants that apparently he did not treat well. There's a lot of prep work for fresco involved.
Okay, yeah.
It's a whole process that I'm not familiar with. So there's that. And then usually, I think Rivera did all of that, the actual painting himself, but usually you have lots of assistants helping you.
Yeah.
Next, we have William Groper.
William Groper. Well, I think this is like on the Wikipedia page, maybe, or something for the New Deal.
It might be, yeah.
I've seen this before. This looks cool.
Yeah. What do we got going on here?
Just checking. Yeah, we got men at work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all men at work constructing a dam.
Okay, all right. I had no idea. I was going to guess a ship, maybe, based on the curve thing happening over here.
That part does look like a ship.
All right, building a dam.
Yeah. So this was done in 1938, and I think what this image in particular is a study for the mural, but it's for the Department of Interior in Washington. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so this is showing really that glorification of work. You have these very masculine figures doing like really tough guy physical labor.
Yeah, like some of them are more jacked than others, but they're all pretty much, they're all brawny.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was listening to an art lecture on this piece, and they're talking about how it kind of really shows the unity of these workers because they're working in some like dangerous conditions. It's very backbreaking work, but they're all like working towards one goal.
Yeah, and they're all doing like a little different of a thing or helping someone do a thing. Like this is a monumental task that they're really taking, parts of and producing something bigger. I don't know if the guy really needs to be up on the crane hook there. I don't know what he's accomplishing, but
maybe it's just his turn. Like it's like you get to take turns riding the crane.
Yeah.
This is probably the most subtle nod to communism we're going to get here. But this painter was a communist, and in this painting, he put a red handkerchief in the back pocket of one of the workers, the guy in the top right. Not like that hardcore, I guess, of a move.
He was really worried about getting called out.
Yeah, he was careful. He did not put a fucking copy of Karl Marx in it. Just one of the workers on break. Just
that one guy's holding a hammer,
Oh yeah, that too.
But
also
he's just also working, so
he could just need a hammer.
Yeah.
This guy was actually a communist, though.
Oh, cool.
He grew up super poor as like a Jewish immigrant. His mother worked in sweatshops, and he even like kind of worked for them, like doing like deliveries as a boy. He lost a favorite aunt in the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He worked for super left-wing publications. Okay, I'm going to read you a list of these publications. You're going to tell me what's your favorite name. It's going to be hard.
Okay.
The Revolutionary Age.
Good.
The Liberator.
Good.
The New Masses.
Good.
The Worker.
Well, that's pretty
That
good.
one's a little more tame. The Rebel Worker.
That's better than The Worker, yeah.
That one's actually the IWW's magazine.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, he worked for some cool publications. He was also a cartoonist. So I love that.
This guy was cool.
He illustrated sweatshops, strikes, the effects of the Great Depression. He would do caricatures of like senators and cops and capitalists in general.
Hell yeah. There's more of that social realism sort of thing.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. So much so that the FBI started a file on him, 1941. Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I mean, if you're saying you're a communist and writing for the new masses, then yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely on the list. And he was in fact interrogated by the HUAC committee.
Oh.
House Un-American Committee. Mm-hmm. This is crazy. He did like an illustrated map of America. I think from what I remember, it was like kind of a folksy, like, here's where Johnny Appleseed was and shit like that.
Yeah.
They accused him of hiding like secrets in it for the Soviets.
In like an illustrated map?
Yes.
What secrets could he have possibly...
I don't
like,
know.
They have access to... they can just
They
get
can just
maps.
look at a map.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so, yeah, he was questioned heavily just in general by them, obviously. And he actually made a ton of work about it afterwards, just really fucking skewering the whole process and just capitalism in general. So that's a cool series.
Yeah.
The series is called Caprichos.
Awesome.
That was later. That was like in the 50s or something, so.
If there's making fun of HUAC and capitalists, so
Yeah.
I'm in favor.
Yeah,
This guy
there's
sounds cool.
really cool ones. What do you see going on in this next one?
Oh, I see some dour capitalists. They are all stuffy and they've got their fancy top hats. So they've also got this professor guy in the middle. Kind of, he forgot to bring his flower.
Oh, sorry, guys.
He looks sad too. Older. There's a guy trapped in the room or something back there in the. Maybe that's just a picture of somebody.
I like that he's trapped, though. He's like against the window with his hands.
Yeah.
Let me out.
Yeah, let me out, guys.
Like a cat.
That's what I thought at first, but I think that's maybe a picture.
I think it is, yes.
And some dead dudes here. Some dead people in caskets.
All right. This is by Ben Shahn, and this is called The Passion of Sacco and Vanzetti.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you want to tell us what that story was about?
So yeah, Sacco and Vanzetti, these were Italian immigrants to the United States. They were accused of murdering two people during an armed robbery in 1920. And then they had this like rigged trial, basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like almost most historians say like they didn't do it. Like this, just there's no evidence, and it doesn't look like they did it. But they, riled up the jury and did a whole bunch of kind of bigoted, anti-immigrant things in the trial. And the judge was just like openly, these guys are anarchists, fuck them, I'm going to put them in jail. And yeah, they executed them.
Jesus. Yeah, I was reading about it, and like the fingerprints didn't match, the ballistic report didn't match, they coerced witnesses. 2 men later like confessed to it, and then they still didn't like follow up on that. Like
Yeah. No, they rigged the thing from the start. And like I said, the judge like openly said to one of his friends after the trial, did you see what I did with those anarchistic bastards the other day? I guess that will hold them for a while.
Jesus.
Like he was just like happy that he did that, and everybody could see that it was a travesty of justice, but that's what happened.
Yeah. Ben Shahn was super interested in this. He, in fact, made 23 different works about this trial.
Sacco and Vanzetti.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was famous, man. It was like
It was like
It
international.
was one of those. Yeah, it was one of those early like not celebrity trials, but like major trials, you know, that
Trial of
everybody's
the
on the edge of their
century.
seat for. Yeah.
Yeah. He was super interested in this as a subject. He had kind of a leftist upbringing. So he was born in Lithuania. His father was exiled to Siberia for being a suspected revolutionary.
Cool.
And apparently, as a child, Ben Shahn would shout, "Down with the Tsar," to anyone wearing a uniform.
Oh, hell yeah.
I can only hope to raise such a cool child.
Like, should I tell him to stop? That's kind of dangerous, but no, I guess not. It's cool.
Back to this painting, though. Take a look at the guy in the back that you thought was trapped. So that is a painting.
All right.
And that is actually the trial judge, the original judge.
Oh, the asshole from Webster Thayer is who that is. The judge himself. Okay.
So he's holding up his hand. Take a look at what's on his left. What does that look like?
It looks like a very fancy light pole.
It does kind of.
What is that supposed to be?
It is very reminiscent of a bundle of sticks, which is a classic symbol for fascism.
Yeah, a fascist or whatever it's called.
Yeah, there's a word for it in Latin. I don't fucking know.
They have them still like above the
yeah.
Senate and stuff like that. Like it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's like on money and shit. Like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's like literally swearing loyalty to fascism. Pretty cool.
Got him.
The other men in this painting are the president of MIT, Harvard, and a retired judge. They were all involved in the appeal process and all denied the appeal and upheld the execution.
Ooh, so he's saying like these guys all played a role in this happening.
Yeah, he's like forcing them to bear witness to what they've done.
They look pissed about it too.
Yeah, and they look like kind of unemotional, or like they're not actually grieving for these men. Like they're kind of half-heartedly offering these like dinky flowers, just like, here you go.
Ooh, yeah. They're like, I'm here. The one dude didn't even bring it.
That guy didn't even fucking do the assignment. And I think lilies also have a strong connection to like the Christ narrative. So, and also like the painting's fucking called The Passion of. So like very clearly setting these guys up as Christ figures.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah.
Dude, he put these guys on blast. This was
Absolutely.
like saying blood on their hands, man.
Basically, yeah, look at these men who murdered these men. Like, fuck them.
Yep.
Yeah, that might be my favorite from this series that we're going to look at.
I dig it.
Next, we have Alice Neal. She's an interesting character. What do you think is going on in this painting?
Well, hopefully it's not a session of self-criticism or because there's a woman in the center. She's got her head in her hands. She's weeping maybe. Or just stressed. We've all been there.
Yeah, right?
She's sitting in a chair at a table, and there's a lot of people around her. Men and a couple of women. A couple people have paper. This other person's got maybe a pencil or something.
What would you say the expression of everyone around the lady is?
Some of them look worried. Some of them just look kind of interested. The guy in the foreground here with the hat in his hand does not look interested.
Yeah, he looks sleepy.
But all right, yeah, that's kind of the mix I see is like kind of a concern, almost like a group therapy session maybe.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it. So this piece is titled Investigation of Poverty at the Russell Sage Foundation.
Oh, okay.
So this was done in 1933. This is showing a woman basically at the mercy of this nonprofit who's basically investigating whether or not she's poor enough to receive aid.
Wow.
I love this piece. I know I just said the other one is my favorite, but I love the message behind this so much because, you know, we love to shit on nonprofits here. And yeah, she basically was like, yeah, that's all they do. They just investigate the poor. They don't give them money.
Right. And they're poking and prodding. And yeah, man, that's great. And that really makes it, if you don't know what the context is here, you're like, okay, this is weird, but cool. But to know what these guys are actually after, no one here, they look maybe interested. A few of them, I think, do look a little concerned. But nobody's like, hey, are you okay? Or anything like that.
Yeah, very just observing.
Dispassionate.
Yeah, dispassionate. Yeah.
She's here clearly in one of the shittiest times of her life that she's, in utter despair, and they're all just like witnessing it.
Yeah, yeah. There's these like impartial witnesses that don't seem to have any empathy.
Yeah, several of them, like I said, just taking notes, just like, interesting, check this box, check this box.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, right? I love this painting. She rejected realism because she was like, that's some capitalist bullshit. You're just trying to replicate a capitalist world, so fuck that. She was much more about an expressive and like humanist style. Like she was all about showing that emotion.
Okay. Not showing things exactly how they visually look is what you mean?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
She didn't like that. She also really didn't like abstract art. She thought that was like too far the other way. Like, no, we need to show what's happening.
She's still kind of doing social realism in the sense of showing the real problems, but in, each person, like this guy over here is like really fading into the background almost. Like he's so grayed out,
Yeah, definitely like using color and texture to show more evocative portraits of people.
Yeah. Okay.
So she got her start at the WPA, had kind of a rocky relationship with her. This one lecture I was watching was telling a story about how apparently she painted a scene like at a butcher shop, and there was like blood everywhere because it's a butcher shop.
Yeah.
And the person she turned it into told her to get rid of the blood. And so she did so she could get her money, but apparently later she bought it back and put the blood back in.
Well, I imagine it was a big part of the scene, right?
Right? Like, how are you going to do a butcher with no blood?
Well, I mean, you're trying to encourage people to go out and spend money at the butcher shop.
I guess, yeah.
Make it look clean.
Yeah, she's just a really interesting character. She goes on to really keep hammering this leftist drum in a way that I find is very interesting. At one point, she paints her kid. She paints him like in his early 20s or something. And it's like this very warm and loving portrait. And then later he becomes a Nixon supporter.
Oh, whoa.
And she paints him again and calls it Richard in the Era of the Corporation.
Ooh.
And like you can just see she's putting her son on fucking blast. Like his skin is kind of greenish. He's in this awkward pose. Like you can just tell like she's disappointed in him.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Just put him on blast. So what were her like her, actual, did she have any actual connections with a socialist or communist party or anything?
Yeah, she painted lots of people in the party. Mother Boer is another one she did. She was an activist, and she was one of like the top-ranking female members of CPUSA. Kenneth Fearing was another guy she painted who was like this famous leftist poet. So yeah, she was like involved. I don't think she was a member of the party at any point. She just was kind of like in their circles.
Okay. So a fellow traveler.
Yeah, she was in the mix. But yeah, that's Alice Neel.
Yeah, I dig that. That one may be my favorite one.
That's a good choice. All right, next we got a kind of a creepy one. What the fuck is happening here, do you think?
There's a lot going on. All right. So I'm imagining this from a perspective. Like I'm supposed to be, or we're supposed to see this from the point of view of whoever, like
At
this
the
is
table.
a point of view, right?
Yeah.
And like, because there's like a hand and a typewriter here. Maybe this is his desk or whatever. It's a fucked up desk. You have like a couple of or a few soldier guys over here on the right. They look kind of soldiery, but old, maybe veterans. Guy with a funny hat.
Like a fez or
in
something.
the corner, yeah. You got a couple of business consultant people or politician consultant people there with their ties.
Well,
you might have some clans.
I just now noticed that.
in the back left there. I think those are Klansmen. You have some like maybe Satan goat here.
I like the Satan goat. Points for that.
And I don't know what the old guy in between the politicians and them is. Just an old man with, I don't know what he's holding.
It looks like a pipe, maybe?
Could be a pipe.
Yeah, there's like pigeons everywhere for some reason.
Oh, okay. Yeah. At first I thought those were like tubes of paint.
Yeah.
Were like on the, yeah, those are pigeons.
I mean, it's very fuzzy.
You're right. Yeah. This whole thing's like out of focus.
All right. So this is called Feast of Pure Reason by Jack Levine. This is done in 1937, so at the very tail end of the Federal Art Project.
This looks a lot more, I don't know how to say it, but like more modern than that.
Yeah, very abstract. It's really getting into like expressionism as a movement, I would say. Abstract expressionism, I think, is the term. So yeah, he was a WPA artist from 1935 to 1940, and his work is all about showing political corruption.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see it.
So yeah, in this you see like police officers and politicians and businessmen all conspiring together in this like little cabal.
Yeah. And they've got the the Klansmen back there
I know,
too.
I'm so freaked out by that. I'm scrolling down so I don't have to see them anymore. They're scaring me. So yeah, that was a super common theme in his work. He does a lot of this kind of work and really continues it to a point where most people are like, I thought we were done with that.
But this is just what he's about.
Yeah, he is all on that social realism train, just like fucking skewering politicians and cops and shit, doing these like really, honestly, nasty looking portraits of them.
Yeah. Kind of like an unmasking, or like this is what they really are like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe not directly tied, but I mean, if he's tearing down the cops and tearing down politicians, he's obviously
He's on the right side.
in the same lane, you know?
Yeah, I didn't find anything. I mean, he also got flagged by HUAC, you know, a lot of these artists did.
Yes, good.
That's how you know you're doing something right.
We would have been hauled up there back in the day.
Oh my God, absolutely. I'd have to fly to Washington every week. Like, I know I said I want to get rid of the government again this week on the podcast. Sorry. I was joking. I'm
It was
funny.
a joke. It's satire.
It's satire, actually. You just don't get it. On to our final work, which has quite the backstory.
Ooh, all right.
All right, what do we got going on here? I like this part where I just ask you to describe pictures to me.
Yes, it's difficult. This is the most challenging part of it. Yeah, I'll go left to right.
Sure.
So left, we've got a lot of people raising their hands to a guy who is a guy in a suit. Mm-hmm. I think he's just pointing to them.
I think so, yeah.
Holding out his hand. And they're all like laborer-looking people. Mm-hmm. In the middle, we got the masses. Someone's holding up a unity sign, and the guy in the front's like, he's pointing a finger at the boss guy. It's clear now this guy's the boss. Instead of what they show below him, instead of like a handout, someone's just giving a little hand to you.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Instead, he's saying like, no, we're going to, that guy up there is lording over you. We got to fight together and then win our, do a strike. And it says strike one. Strike like victorious.
Yeah,
not strike
one. We're going to kill him.
Right. So they win their strike. And then on the right-hand side, you have older people. They look older, I think. Maybe that's like the future that they can win. Like this is, it's multiracial. Mm-hmm. It's
the whole thing is.
Yeah, and it's still like American kind of pride. There's an American flag back there, I guess. So it's like, I guess, patriotic in that way. But it also like, I don't know. That's, to me, it looks like kind of a patriotic, which is weird, but like
looking forward,
like worker thing.
Yeah. So this is called History of San Francisco, and this is panel number 24. This is a huge piece in general. I think there's 27 panels.
Damn, all right.
And this one is called The Waterfront, and it's by Anton Refrigere. I am assuming that's how you say it. And this was done in 1946. So again, another pretty late piece in this program. So this is called History of San Francisco. So he shows a ton of stuff in this, which will kind of cover some of the other things he shows that people did not like. But this is probably the most controversial part.
I think I know what it's depicting.
It is the 1934 West Coast waterfront strike.
Ah, okay. I was going to say longshoreman strike.
That is exactly what that is.
Oh, okay. It's the same one. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, you have these longshoremen, so people who work shipping. And their companies all had what's called a Blue Book union, which is basically just a company union, which is to say, not a union.
Right. They sign you up for the union and they tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah, which is crazy. You still pay dues. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yep.
That's
it's
insane.
Slush fund for the boss.
Yeah. They had a closed shop.
So you had to do that.
And basically, that was a big source of the conflict, was that the longshoremen wanted an open shop and the employers refused. And that led to an 83-day strike.
get their own independent union, do their own thing.
Yes. Classic. Some strikebreakers showed up, some scabs, and some cops, and there were just tons of clashes, culminating in what is called Bloody Thursday, another bloody day on the books.
There we go. Our first Thursday, maybe.
First Thursday, as far as I know. The police shot tear gas into a crowd of strikers because they wanted the port open for 4th of July, and fights broke out, and it ended up with 2 deaths.
What? Even though they were using non-lethal tear gas and
They shot them.
showing such restraint?
They shot into the fucking crowd. There's
Oh, wow.
different accounts. One, the more conservative side's like, no, they were trying to flip over a police car. That's why they did it. And another one was like, no, they just started shooting. So,
Right. Also, just execute someone for trying to flip a car.
yeah, also not great. So, yeah, there were 2 deaths. So the strikers, immediately, cordoned off this area that they were killed and put down, flowers and wreaths. And the police fucking removed the flowers, right away.
Assholes.
What the fuck, guys?
Trying to bully him more.
Yeah, basically. The National Guard and the Army show up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're not fucking
Yeah.
around. They keep trying to negotiate. Roosevelt's involved trying to figure out, what the fuck can we do about this? But they cannot come to an agreement. So they decide, I think definitely motivated by these deaths as well. We're going to go on a fucking citywide general strike.
Hell yeah. General strike.
My favorite.
Yes.
150,000 workers involved in this. They did a processional for the victims. Everyone fucking stopped working. The city basically closed down. I think really all they had going was food delivery. The unions allowed that to keep going, but everything else,
Yeah.
lots of small businesses were closed for it in solidarity. It was fucking cool.
And that's the longshoremen's independent union, right? Not the old company
Yeah,
one.
yeah. I believe
Okay.
it was a few unions working together. It was a very confusing system. I gotta say, it was hard to keep track of who is in charge.
Yeah. But I mean, if they have a council of union people,
I think that's accurate.
you're basically doing anarcho-syndicalism there.
300 people were arrested for being, quote, radicals, subversives, and communists. So
What the fuck? just
I guess
roll
you
up
could
and
do
arrest
that.
someone for that?
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about before that there's fucked up laws about just being a member of anything.
So the strike lasted 4 days, and then they called in the California National Guard, and they literally blocked off a street with a machine gun attached to a truck.
Whoa.
And they did that so they could protect the San Francisco fucking PD doing a series of raids.
Wow.
Let me tell you, this list of places they raided, it's a lot of places.
All right.
Starting with the Marine Workers Industrial Union, the
Okay.
Workers Ex-Servicemen's League's headquarters, Workers Open Forum, the Western Worker Building, which also housed the main offices of the Communist Party, a fucking soup kitchen.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, because that was rubbing it in their face that, hey, we can do this without the bosses. We can do this without you, masters and all that.
It was a union-sponsored soup kitchen, I believe.
It's like when they would go and bust up the Black Panthers breakfast programs.
Exactly
and stuff.
Exactly that. Also just neighborhoods, just fucking people's houses. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's like when they would go and roll through the neighborhoods that they were sure were supporting the IRA and stuff. The British
Yeah.
would target them.
Yeah.
Same shit, different place.
Dude, this is the fucking shit cherry on top of the shit sundae. A police spokesman, quote, "Maybe the communists staged the raids themselves for publicity."
They burned the place down themselves.
Has anything changed? Am I living in the 1930s? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, maybe they did it to themselves.
Oh my God.
Classic.
So yeah.
An oldie and a baddie.
Yeah, right. Oldie and a baddie. Yeah. Classic for a reason. It sucks. That's the reason.
Man, all right. So, I mean, did they mop up basically?
They basically
At that
mopped
point?
up. Yeah. The strike ended. The tension did not end, though. There were aftermaths of spontaneous strikes and agitation. Mm-hmm. The eventual result, though, was the unionization of all West Coast ports in the United States.
Hell yeah. That's
as a
Good.
victory.
I mean, it should not have, shouldn't have happened so shittily, but
Yeah.
it's good that it did.
They got the raise they asked for almost exactly. I think they got like 96 cents instead of the dollar they asked for. And it also inspired more unions to pop up in the area, including the Department Store Workers Union and the Retail Clerks Association.
People wonder, why Amazon, why any major corporation, they pour so much money and resources into fighting unionization drives. It's because when they succeed, it spawns more.
Yeah, absolutely. People say, oh, they did it there? Fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. And and why? Because it's good. Because it gets
they got
gets
their
them
raise.
stuff. It's just like why they were always afraid, we can't let this communist nation, this socialist nation succeed because then more people nearby will do it. Why? Because it's so bad? No, because
It's so good. We can't have nice things, basically.
Yeah.
Also, very cool unions. Like a department store union, a retail clerks union. That's awesome.
Yeah. Eventually merge them into one big union, just general strike.
Fuck yeah.
There we go.
Let's do it. Refrigier was forced to make some edits.
Oh, okay. This wasn't wasn't what he intended.
This is the edited version.
All right. I like it still.
It's
but
still very good.
What's the parental advisory explicit content version?
So the leader in the middle was apparently a portrait of Harry Bridges, who is heavily involved in organizing and leading the strike.
Okay.
So he changed him just to be like a guy.
Okay.
Believe it was one of the men on the right. They used to have a hat from the Veterans of Foreign Wars. So I guess that was controversial to say that like veterans were involved in this like union shit. I'm not super sure what the controversy was on that, TBH.
Dude, that's messed up. But like veterans at that time, I mean, so the time period here for the longshoreman strike, what was that?
1934.
34. Because like there was something called like the bonus army marches.
I heard about
veterans were, they were like marching on the Capitol demanding that they paid their bonus from fighting in World War One, and they turned the troops on them. I mean, I don't know why it would be controversial to
Like people knew that happened.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. So this was supposed to be all about like an idyllic history of California. And we'll see this in the rest of the panels as well. Like they did not like this very realistic history. They're like, this is not what we want to advertise.
Yeah.
So other controversial panels, he depicted the brutalization of Chinese immigrants. People did not like that.
Did they make him throw it out?
Nope, still there.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
People did not like this. Surprise, surprise. They said some panels were, quote, an outrageous attempt to arouse class hatred, aka my favorite kind of art.
And they're still at that today, still at that sort of censoring of any sort of teaching of history. It's been in the news lately about Texas doing you can't teach critical race theory or these sorts of things.
Yeah.
The good news for listeners is that the way that's worded is it doesn't end up amounting to anything for teachers. Like, it's not going to affect me really at all. Because they worded it real stupid, so you don't really have to worry about it. But it's just like, this constant like pushback at this imagined foe that's trying to like, corrupt your heroes that you've lionized and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they were even doing that then, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you go through the panels, I think they have them all just listed out on Wikipedia with the images, so you can just kind of click through them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is there's definitely some like lionization of particularly workers like we've seen throughout.
Yeah.
But he's showing what happened. He's showing the gold rush. He's showing Native Americans. He's showing like an actually more accurate picture, and people did not fucking like that.
Yep. They don't like to be disturbed.
So we have a guest appearance on the pod.
Guest. All right. Let's bring him in.
Our good friend, Nixon.
Oh, yeah. That asshole.
He was one of the people trying to get this mural removed.
Why? What?
This is his quote. I'm not going to do the voice. I'm sorry. I believe a committee should make a thorough investigation of this type of art in government buildings with the view to obtaining removal of all that is found to be inconsistent with American ideals and principles.
Man.
What a fucking Karen.
Spot on. That's exactly what they're still doing today. Like, it's just an old school, like, fight over the textbooks, basically, you know?
Yeah. And this dragged out for a long fucking time. There were, like, congressional hearings about this fucking painting. And it lasted until 1957. That's how long. This was finished in 1946.
Where was this put up, by the way? Like, where was it being displayed that they were so upset?
The Rincon Center, which is, it looks like a shopping center, basically. Shops, restaurants, offices in downtown San Francisco.
And they were just upset that the passerbys would learn the wrong history?
I guess so.
It's like, it doesn't even show, I don't know. To me, this is just not that, like, risque. Like,
it's not that crazy.
We're not hanging capitalists or guillotining them or...
Every mural is just a guillotine. All the artists wrote
people
to each other.
punching cops in the face. Like,
the artist union was like, "We're doing guillotines, right? That's this month's theme."
Yeah, but I mean, I guess Nixon can find a communist behind every curtain.
Mm-hmm. I think also, so these were finished in 1946, so right after World War II. So there's this big patriotism push, obviously.
The Red Scare kicking off again.
Exactly.
So did he fail? Did he, everyone was just like, fuck you, we're keeping it?
Yeah, it even got restored in the 80s, like got a touch up.
Oh, good,
yeah.
good.
Still around.
It's fun to see Nixon fail.
I love that. It's one of my favorite things. So this brings us to the end of the WPA in general and also the Federal Arts Program. Basically, hey, we got a war on. We got to stop doing this shit. Actually, a lot of pieces of art were destroyed or sold off.
Wow. Okay.
People would recycle things to use in plumbing. I'm not exactly sure what parts of paintings are useful for plumbing, but sure. Canvas?
Yeah, no idea.
I don't know. Sculptures and stuff were melted down to use for ships and bullets and shit like that. And yeah, throughout the 50s, HUAC basically spent a ton of time investigating various artists and writers involved in the program for communist sympathies.
Yeah.
Lots of murals were actually painted over for various reasons. Some of that, I believe, was involved with HUAC, and then some of it was just whatever.
We're doing this now.
Yeah. So there's been a big effort to restore those and see if you can kind of peel them back.
Yeah. That sucks to imagine how many of them are lost.
I know, yeah. Weirdly enough, though, there was a small kind of resurgence of this type of program through the Comprehensive Employment and Training Act of 1973, signed by Nixon. Weirdly enough.
Okay. I mean, some people claim he was our last liberal president, so... Founded the EPA.
I mean, yeah,
Broken clock.
I was just going to say that, but I could not think of the idiom. I was like, a blind clock? A blind mouse?
Clock. Yeah.
I could not think of it. But yeah, it was kind of a similar program. Employed 10,000 artists through 1980.
Wow.
Yeah, weird, right?
It was just, I mean, maybe he put them through a political test first.
Yeah,
I don't want any of those communist bastards in there,
Yeah. You could only paint flowers and no flower symbolism shit. No vaginas, nothing like that.
Yeah. None of that hippie shit.
Just flowers. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the legacy of WPA
Yes.
and this program in general. Some of the things it did for the art world. One, the restrictions were pretty loose, as we have seen.
Mm-hmm.
It really helped abstract artists because they did not discriminate by style.
Yeah. Is it Jackson Pollock?
Yes.
He was involved in this?
He was. He got his start through this, and that absolutely helped him financially.
And they let him do his style of thing. It wasn't draw horses or something.
I'm not sure what his early work looks like. I know at one point he was actually an assistant to one of the regionalists we talked about at the beginning. He actually is in one of his paintings as a model.
Oh, okay.
So I think he had more of a traditional start to his career. So I'm not super sure, but he got to fuck around in this and actually make a living.
Yeah, but in general, you're saying abstract art was...
It definitely was
you could do
bolstered
that.
by this, yes. Yeah.
Cool.
It's kind of a mixed bag because there's the easel program we talked about, and then there's also the public works project part of it, or the treasury had their own department of this too. So those were more public So you could lose a commission or not win out on a commission. Like often they would have contests for murals.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
You still had to like abide by a little bit what people wanted, but as we saw, people really towed that line.
Right, because you could just make one of the books Karl Marx. It's capital. It's fine.
Exactly.
Who's going to see that?
Yeah. In theory, this was supposed to be a non-discriminatory program in general. Mm-hmm. You had about 12% representation of women artists, which not great, but better than usual for that time period.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask is not by our standards, but...
No, considering they're half the population, not great. Traditionally, women are represented pretty well in art school. Like it's seen as a very feminine thing to do.
Yeah.
This is still true today, by the way. It's basically a fucking coven in there. It's great. They often like had trouble succeeding professionally at that time. So it did help a lot of women artists, though, in general.
Yeah.
It was also helpful for Black people. About 15% of WPA employees were Black. Mm-hmm. But this didn't just happen. There were unions that like actually did sit-ins to make sure that more Black artists were hired.
Oh, hell yeah. They didn't just decide not to be racist. That's
crazy, right? I thought they would just change their mind about being racist.
Yeah, especially since this was led by the Democratic Party, which was the solid South at that time.
Exactly. It was still harder for Black people to get work, even in this program, especially Black women. There was a story about, I think her name is Augusta Savage, who was like a sculptor. And she was basically the leader of that like Harlem community art center. And like people did not like that.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
Yeah. This program also helped support an influx of artists who were fleeing Hitler's Germany and just Europe in general. Mm-hmm. You know, you had this big, poor immigrant population coming over, and they had a way to continue their art.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And we've talked about how, like, that whole scene was very important to, like, the modern American design culture in general.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was wondering, we were talking about kind of how this helped artists and stuff. Does this help... at the time, and maybe this effect fades if it existed at all, but did this help like professionalize? I don't know if that's the right word, but like make it to where people consider being an artist not just like something that a socialite can do or something, or not something that just like you have to get a patron, or like a real job or a real profession.
No, that's huge. So like for fucking centuries, art has been a patronage kind of thing. And this was a huge shift in how they were approaching that. They're saying, no, we're taking out that middleman. It is just art for the people. And I think it also really helped establish the American art scene in general and kind of just the modern gallery scene. Like the Whitney was founded during this time period. Mm-hmm. You had this big proliferation of galleries in a way that America hadn't really done, whereas like Europe obviously has this very long tradition of it. So is this real like creation of that scene.
Cool.
Which that scene has its problems as well.
Yeah. I just think it's maybe a stepping stone or like, an improvement, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the fact that they're recognizing art as labor is fucking huge. Like, that's... A lot of people don't do that. And it comes in like the most ridiculous ways of like, oh, you're an artist. Like you just have fun all day. I'm like,
Yeah. To me, it's a throwback to like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Mm-hmm. Well, like an artist. Okay. Like that sounds like it'd be fun, but like,
what do you actually want to do?
You should do that for fun, but also what real job are you going to do? There's that kind of big push, I guess, socially, when we were growing up anyway.
For sure, yeah. I mean, even now, yeah, if someone says they're going to be an artist, you're like, okay, yeah, how are you going to make money, though? Which is a valid question, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, this definitely was about bringing art to everyday people. It was taking it out of, like, these elite urban centers and, the things like the touring theater groups and musicians, creating these art centers in these kind of rural areas, like... There was some in like Oklahoma and stuff. And both in terms of like, here's everyday art, kind of like we talked about in that one episode about like the art of everyday things, like posters, just very clearly utility based art.
Yeah.
And things like fine arts, like painting and sculpture, and things like mural, public art.
And I don't know, like if you've been listening and you're like, okay, well, this art stuff, I get that they put some communist messages in it, and that's kind of cool, but like, end of the day, It's just art. It's just like a frill, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we've talked about it before, I think, but I think we would push back on that and say, like, it's more important to the human experience, like the whole being a human. It's not just about, like, making sure you have enough money, making sure you're fed enough and housed and clothed, but, like, you need more to that.
Yeah, like, it's often, like you said, seen as a luxury good when, in a lot of ways, like, I don't know if this is too much and this is just my specific lens, but, like, to me, like, the making of art is part of what makes us human. Like, no other fucking animal does that. Mm-hmm. No other animal's like, I made a thing, please look at it.
Yeah. It's unique to us. I've said it before on here, but, like, it's one of those things where if we did have, aliens come take over everything,
we would still do it.
They would probably, they'd probably, like, say, these humans are interesting. They sing and they dance, they do sports, they do art. Like, we have a few things we're kind of useful for.
Yeah, like, it's about, the program really saw it as, like, an essential part of society and, like, democracy. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Some of this was a little bit of populism, there's definitely a trend all over the world at this time to use art to align people to their message. Mexican muralism, everything from that to, like, straight up Nazi propaganda. And this stuff definitely falls in there,
It's like how Diego Rivera's mural was showing, science, man. It just makes progress. It could be good or it could be bad depending on how you use it,
Exactly. Same thing here. Like, yeah, you could make some bad propaganda, but to me, like, most art is propaganda. It's weird if it's not. I guess if you're making, like, I don't even know what it would be.
Abstract. I mean, that's not propaganda.
Yeah, maybe. It depends what it's about.
Well, true.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not great at interpreting abstract art, but yeah.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, so, like, you'd think, okay, we're doing this government program for artists. You better only make art that's good about the government. And
yeah, pro-government, right?
Yeah. And there's definitely some of that. Like, you had a lot of people who are, like, really grateful for this and, like, really fucking leaned into that. Like, you have some, like, look at this gorgeous American landscape and shit like that. And that's fine. Right. I get it. But, like we saw, you also had some people towing that line of, like, what is political and what can I push with this message? Mm-hmm. But it also, another important thing was it took away that patronage element to the client, basically.
Yeah.
Especially in the easel program with, like, fucking make a painting once a month, turn it in. You can paint whatever the fuck you want. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these artists had not been able to explore the themes they wanted to, because if you're taking private commissions, you're doing things like portraits, you're doing things like landscapes, like you're doing pretty art for people's living rooms.
Right, yeah. Here you get to actually say what you want to say.
Yeah, like some of the art I didn't include in here, but was really great, was stuff like depicting poor neighborhoods. Like there's this one where they're showing, like, it was called, like, washing day or laundry day. And it was like all these women doing, like, domestic labor basically, and, like, you would never be able to paint that for clients.
Yeah. Yeah. Why do they? Yeah. They don't care. They don't want to think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, it allowed a lot of artists to really explore what they wanted to. Like, Alice Neal definitely benefited from that. Like, a lot of these people, like, just got to paint whatever the fuck they wanted instead of just pretty shit, which is awesome.
Yeah. I think it was interesting too. It first, I guess the first I thought about it of the series was the last one, the longshoreman strike depiction. Mm-hmm. But, like, that idea you said that, some of them kind of leaned in and just kind of did, like, go America or inoffensive stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, this was kind of a critical portrayal of, history and how, these workers were cracked down on brutally.
Yeah.
But it was wrapped in this, like, more or less kind of patriotic, like, this idea that, like, a patriotism, which, okay, as communists, we're not
favorite.
Like, basically, yeah, we're kind of against that. But, like, to be more accessible to people, you don't have to go to, like, your friends and your family and stuff and be like, hey,
America.
Right, like, be anti-American. You're probably not going to win them over on the first thing. Mm-hmm. But, like, wanting what's good for your country, like, and its people is not just, like, cheerleading everything that it does, but also, like, asking these questions. Like, even the creepy one where it was
the Jack Levine.
Yeah. It's like this, it's kind of saying this isn't how it should be. Things should be better than this. And that's, I don't know, I think that's in a way like looking out for your country too.
Yeah, I definitely think criticism can be patriotic.
So I think they were kind of broadening that to say we can question, we can say like, hey, we should change these things. This is what's really going on. We should make that better together.
Yeah.
The one Florence Kawa, how we're all working together, parts of this, It's proud, but it's not unquestioning, I guess.
Yeah. And like we saw throughout these pieces, and there's several other pieces, like there's lots of mining ones where it's just like a tough guy mining for gold or whatever. And it's definitely idealizing and often very masculine portrayals of these workers, and very like, look how tough and cool we are.
Yeah, like the Groper one where they're all brawny and working.
Yeah, so it is definitely like there's still some maybe socialist realism in there too, like a little bit idealized. Definitely pro-worker in that sense, but it has the ability to also do social commentary as well. It's just which way you want to go with it, and again, like you can find lots of art that's just like, I think there's like one of like skating in Central Park, and I wrote notes on it because I was watching a lecture about the whole program, but I was like, I think I'm gonna get rid of this one for the series. We don't really need to talk about that.
Not a ton of content in that one.
Yeah, that's all I got.
I feel like I learned a ton.
Yay.
I guess I knew broadly, just like, oh, there was the new deal, there was, they paid artists, but I didn't know any of the details, and I'm not very art history knowledgeable, so this was cool.
I didn't know a lot of this stuff either. Like, I remember we talked about doing this episode, and you're like, I don't know if this is far left enough for us. And at first, when I did the initial dive, I was like, I don't know if it is either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it took some digging, but yeah, there's some good shit in here. So I was pleasantly surprised. Okay, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we're going to talk about Africa's Che Guevara.
Oh, who's that?
This is a man named Thomas Sankara.
Okay.
And he was the first president of Burkina Faso. And he's pretty awesome. And he's like kind of a Marxist-Leninist revolutionary guy.
Oh, nice. All right. I am interested. I know literally nothing, as usual, but that's okay.
I know a little bit. Like, I think a pretty good amount, but I have to A, brush up on it, and B, get some more.
Yeah. Get to work. Get out of here.
I will.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, you can find us online. We are on Twitter at Teach Communism, Instagram at Teach Me Communism. You can send us an email, teachmecommunism@gmail.com. You can send us suggestions for a future episode, questions for Q&A, or, I mean, we just answered one earlier in the episode today. You should definitely leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. It is the best way for people to find the show. And I need your compliments and power.
Great for the show. Great for us. So, two birds, one stone.
Yeah. And it is my birthday this week, so you are legally obligated to do that if you haven't already.
That's true. It's the law. I mean, also fuck the law, but
also
still,
fuck the
whatever.
law. It's in the theory. Karl Marx wrote it down at one point. Christine is going to have a birthday in this year. Make sure to review their podcasts.
It's good praxis, shall we say.
Definitely. Anyway, we have a YouTube channel if that's your preferred listening method, or if you know someone who likes to listen to podcasts that way. So check that out.
Yeah.
And then we also have a Patreon. For $5 a month, you get access to our notes for each episode, including the backlog. So this week you will get my notes. I'm going to add some additional sources like that gallery I mentioned that has all of the American Index of Design in it, and some really cool YouTube lectures that I watched. Some awesome like art talks. So yeah.
Cool. Great job here with doing all the research and everything. You really put together quite the episode.
It was so much fun. Like I always forget how much I'm into art history.
Well, it was dope. And like I said, I learned a ton. So
Awesome.
Hopefully our listeners did too.
Yay.
You guys can tune in next week for another episode of Teach Me Communism, where the class struggle is always in session.
Bye.
Goodbye.